The playoff bracket at VCT Masters Toronto has been incredibly unpredictable. Every single top seed from each region going down to the lower bracket at the start of it, some miracle upsets, and a miracle Cinderella run from Wolves. It's been absolutely crazy, and I'm here to talk about the matches that have happened so far. So this is the board we have today. We have the first 6 matches to talk about, then we will be talking about the 2 that happened today. So if you want to skip to any match that you want to hear about, there are timestamps in the player. Now what I've been doing for these recap videos at Toronto so far is I've been taking notes during the game, trying to be as detailed as possible, then relaying those notes onto you. But because there are so many games and my weekend was very busy, it was my girlfriend's birthday, so everybody say happy birthday, Miss Chill Out Esports in the comments, please. You done it? Cool? Perfect? Awesome. Thank you. And it was also Father's Day, so it's been a very busy weekend, so I have watched these matches, but I wasn't able to always take detailed notes. But still, we're going to talk about all these matches, starting with G2 versus Paper X. This was a huge match for Paper X to start the playoff bracket with, beating G2, the top seed out of the Americas region and one of the favorites to win the whole tournament. A team coming from stage 1 looking like potentially the best team, a team that went to the grand final of VC Masters Bangkok and fell short, while Paper X is another team that have gone to grand finals and fell short. So this was a battle of who was gonna choke less. Just kidding, that's of course not how I saw this. This was a very well played game from Paper X. G2 didn't particularly play bad or anything, they just got outclassed here. Some G2 detractors saying that, look, the Taeho meta is gone, G2's bad now. Well, they did recover later in the bracket, albeit a fairly easy matchup, but we'll get to that when we do. But also Trent, the resident Taeho player throughout the year, was playing different agents in this match and actually did quite well, as well as the second match. But either way, let's look at both of these maps. Starting with map 1, we have Split, this one being Paper X's pick, and ended up being a very solid pick for them. They've looked quite good on this map this tournament. G2 have been good on Split as well, not their best map, but a solid one for them for sure. And G2 did get off to a pretty good start. They won that pistol and the anti-eco. Paper X would flip it onto them and tie the game at round 4. That was with Forsaken having a nice play where he sneaks through a smoke on B main, gets a 2k with it after swinging. Some gunfights mid, but the round ends up going to Paper X. G2 would win the next round in round 5, but then 3 more for Paper X would give them that lead. Round 9, both teams fight mid again. It ends up being a 4v4. Forsaken whiffs with his judge and Jogmo gets a nice flick. Patman gets one, but he's left in a 1v3 situation, can't win it. And we end the half with G2 winning 4 rounds in a row to be up 7-5. They would then go on to win the second pistol. It's 9-5 now. But round 14 would be the last round that G2 wins for a while. Paper X just turned it on right there, and they ended up playing so much better on their attack side, that being their favorable side on this map, and it worked to a T. Such as round 16, Patman having an insane round here. With some gunfights on A, it ends up being a 2v3 in favor of Paper X. Patman uses his Fatal, Forsaken then dies, so he's basically alone, but then Patman gets 1, 2, 3, that ends up being a 4k for Patman to end that round. And it's just all Paper X for most of this attack half. 7 rounds in a row, G2 get one at round 22, but then match point for Paper X round 23, it's over. Jogamo would do what he could, getting a shorty kill, but he ends up dying. Paper X, they get on site, it's a 3v3, ends up in a 1v1, something versus Leaf, and something gets it. Jogamo leading the way for his team with 18 kills, Trent just behind with 17, and for Paper X, Patman leading the whole server with 21 kills, he was +7. Moving on, we have Lotus, a map that G2 have been incredible on this whole year, but of course they are playing without the Taeho. Trent did have a very good game on the Sova though. However, of course, there is the argument to be made that the Taeho meta maybe not be affecting Trent's performance overall. G2 overall not having Taeho is detrimental to them. We'll see how the rest of their tournament goes to see if that ends up being true, but it was evident in this match, because Paper X finally win their first pistol of the game, and it's just a back and forth first half. G2 getting a good round here, then Paper X winning a couple. Jogmo saving the round for G2 at round 8 by getting a 4k with the Neon ult, but Paper X, with a lot of the crowd behind them as well, just end up having a pretty solid half. Ends up being 6-6, so it is a tied game, but then Paper X win that crucial second pistol, and that gives them the momentum to have another solid attack half. G2 having trouble retaking with players like Jane and Something playing very well with the double duelist comp. G2 would get a couple rounds here at round 18 and 19, but then it's 2 more for Paper X. They have all the momentum. G2 almost able to tie this one, but then Paper X finished this one off at round 24. It's over. It was a close game, but it does still end up being a 2-0. Trent with 22 kills on the Sova, he was leading the whole server there. Gene leading the way for Paper X, 20 kills for him, he was +5. Playoff. Looking at the team MVPs, on the side of G2, we have Trent, who went 39, 28, and 11 for plus 11. And on the side of PaperX, we have Patman, who went 34, 29, and 20 for plus 5. In terms of pistol rounds, both teams were even on those with 2. Eco rounds 1, 2 for both teams as well. Half by 6 wins for PaperX, 7 for G2. So them beating PaperX in that regard, but then of course full buy 17 for PaperX, 11 for G2. That's where the difference was made. So PaperX starting their playoff bracket incredibly strong, beating G2 after avoiding disaster against Team Liquid. This was an incredible game to watch them win. Obviously I picked G2 and people were in my comments immediately after this match ended saying that I should have believed in the train and were just, dunking on me. However, I genuinely like both teams. I do want G2 to win a Masters this year, but PaperX are a team I've been cheering for a while now. However, they've just always let me down at the biggest moments, so when it comes to predicting them, I've basically sworn off on picking them to at least win a tournament. Matches here and there, yeah, for sure, but I didn't think they would beat G2, and I was wrong. But PaperX going track by track, they've had a pretty good run so far. It got better later on as well, so we'll talk about that when we get there. And G2, rough start to their bracket, going down to the lowers. Hey, at least you get more reps in. We'll see how it goes for them. Moving on to the second game that we have to talk about, we have Sentinels versus XLG. Sentinels coming through the Swiss stage facing the other 2 Chinese teams that attended this tournament. XLG deciding to continue that streak for Sentinels by choosing them to play against, which ended up being kind of a bad idea, but at the same time every top seed lost, so it's not really like they would have won if they had chosen someone else. However, this did end up being a pretty decisive 2-0 victory for Sentinels, slaying yet another Chinese team looking very good while doing it, and it came out later that XLG was having communication problems because their new player in MIDI apparently doesn't speak English, and that's what they com in. So a pretty unfortunate situation for XLG, losing YOU, and ended up being pretty detrimental to them. Looking at map 1, we have Sunset. This one was a 13-6 win in favor of Sentinels, being XLG's map pick. Sentinels starting off strong by winning the pistol as well as the anti-eco. XLG do get one at round 3, but Sentinels end up having a pretty strong attack half led by Zekin, having some very solid plays on the Neon there. The half ends up being 8-4. XLG just not able to get any momentum going. Rarga would play better as the match went along, but did have his struggles. Not be the difference maker that a lot of people hoped he would. Then XLG would win the first 2 rounds of the second half, but those would prove to be the last rounds that they were able to win, as Sentinels would go on to win the last 5 to end this one. Happyway leading XLG with 18 kills. He was +1, and Zekin being the MVP of the whole server. He was feasting on this team. 27 kills for him. He was +17. And moving on to map 2, we see the exact same scoreline, this time on Lotus being Sentinels pick. Honestly, this map pool in general is quite strong for Sentinels. You have Sunset, a map they're quite good on. Lotus and Pearl, 2 maps that they're also quite good at, so maybe XLG are strong on these maps too, but this just ended up looking very much a Sentinels map pool, and it proved to be the case as we see 2 maps with a 13-6 scoreline. Anyways, XLG do get that first pistol. Can they build momentum off of it? Not really, because Sentinels would win 3 solid retakes in a row to take the lead. XLG would tie it up as much as they could, but then 4 rounds to end the half for Sentinels would give them an 8-4 lead. Then Sentinels would win that second pistol. They have all the momentum. This one is over pretty quick. Ends up being round 19 being the last round that they played. Gen.G leading his team in terms of rating with the 1.46, but Bane leading the way in kills with 18, and no one on XLG getting more than 12 kills. We had 2 players at 11 kills, and we had 2 at 12. Looking at the team MVPs on the side of Sentinels, we have Zekin, who was just absolutely destroying this game. 41 kills, 20 deaths, 9 assists for +21. On the side of XLG, we have Happyway, who went 29, 32, and 7 for -3. In terms of pistols, both teams won 2 of them. In terms of eco rounds, 2 as well. Wins on a half by 2 for Sentinels, 6 for XLG, and in terms of full buys, 21 for Sentinels, only 4 for XLG. So Sentinels continue on in the upper bracket with a very strong performance. So far this tournament, they've only beaten Chinese teams, which if they end up going down in the lower bracket, that might be the narrative around them, much like Loud at Madrid 2024, but I think for this tournament, the Chinese teams generally look a lot stronger. Billy looked quite good. Wolves, while they did lose to Sentinels, they have been on a miracle run. We'll get to them in a bit. But the region overall is quite strong. Just unfortunate for XLG that they couldn't continue in that upper bracket and they would fall later as well. Moving on to the second day of playoff matches, we have Wolves versus RRQ. Wolves looking red hot at the end of the Swiss stage, but not beating any opponents that looked particularly impressive. Beating Billy, that's an in-region matchup, but a team that did look better than Wolves during stage 1. But of course, having a very impressive upset win over Team Heretics and going up against RRQ, the top seed in the Pacific. That is not an easy feat at all, but RRQ just came out cold. Wolves were way more ready for this one. Juicy, Sprain were all in peak form. And for RRQ, players like Gen.G, who looked incredible heading into this tournament, couldn't really make that much of an impact. Looking at map 1, we have Ascent. This one ended up being a 13-11 win for Wolves. Pretty close game overall, but Wolves start this one with the momentum, winning the first 4 rounds in a row with an impressive attack side. RRQ just slow out the gate. Players like Cushy doing well, but Gen.G really struggled in those early rounds. But then RRQ would make it close by getting 3 in a row, but then another 4 in a row for Wolves at the end of the half. It would end up being 8-4 at the end of the half, but Wolves going on 2 pretty momentum switching streaks. However, then Wolves would win that second pistol, then the anti-eco, but then RRQ finally woke up and started playing a lot better, winning 5 rounds in a row to get this one to a 10-9 scoreline. They're 1 round away from tying it, but then a solid retake from Wolves would end that dream. The teams go back and forth until round 24 comes around, and Wolves end up closing this one out before overtime. Cushy leading the way in the entire server, top fragging with 23 kills. He was +7. But then for Wolves, we see a much more evened out scoreline. We have Sprain leading the way in terms of rating with a 1.20, but then we have YU with 19 kills leading the way for his team in terms of kills, which just goes to show that a lot of these players are in really good form. And even if you have, say, a performance like Lysor who got 13 kills but still didn't play poorly, then that means you have a pretty deep team, and Wolves look quite deep. Moving on to map 2, we have Icebox, this one being a bit more lopsided, but it didn't start that way. RRQ with a really strong attack half on this one, winning that crucial pistol and anti-eco. Wolves would get their first round around 3, but couldn't put much more together after that. 4 more rounds for RRQ, Wolves win 2 retakes around 8 and round 9. 2 more for RRQ, and then Wolves end the half with 1. It was 8-4 in favor of RRQ. But then we would see the attack half for Wolves just completely flip this map. RRQ finding no answers on defense as Wolves had a flawless half. I think that's the second time that they've done that this tournament. Just absolutely decimating that RRQ defense. They just can't stop them from getting onto site or from getting the kills. So the second half goes pretty quick with Wolves just steamrolling their way through. They end this one at round 21. Gen.G having a better map here than map 1. He did end up having 19 kills, which was top fragging for his team, but Moniette was leading the way in terms of rating. However, the best duelist in the server ended up being Juicy with 23 kills. He was +9. His form has been great. Juicy went 40, 31, and 12 for +9. Moniette's leading the way for RRQ overall with 32 kills, 30 deaths, 18 assists for +2. In terms of pistol rounds, Wolves have done quite well in that regard. 3 in this match, 1 for RRQ. Eco round wins 3 for Wolves, 1 for RRQ. Half buy wins 5 for Wolves, 2 for RRQ. And full buys 18 wins for Wolves and 16 for RRQ. So overall, RRQ, they didn't play terribly or anything, but just kind of got outclassed and outformed. They fell victim to a Chinese team that not a lot of people knew a ton about heading into this tournament, and have looked like one of, if not the best team at this tournament. And RRQ just ended up being a very bad matchup for them. But Wolves, full credit to them, they deserve this one. If you win, you deserve that win, and they did quite a good job, and they didn't stop there. Moving on, we have Gen.G versus Fnatic. This one ended up being a 2-1 win for Gen.G, but it was not without its controversy. This one having a very long tech pause, and honestly, it's not even something I can really blame Riot for. The power went out in the venue, at least the power that specifically was powering the Jumbotrons, and a lot of technical problems from that they honestly just couldn't really anticipate. And that does kind of end up being the reason why this even goes to a map 3. Gen.G probably should have won this one 2-0, having a really strong first map and first half of map 2, but then Fnatic ended up 9-3 reversing them. But then Gen.G established dominance on that map 3, so disaster averted for them, but still a pretty impressive win for Gen.G here. Looking at map 1, we have Haven, this one being Gen.G's pick, and ended up being a pretty close affair. 13-11 the final score scoreline. Gen.G starting off good with 2-round wins, but then Fnatic would wake up a bit by winning 5 rounds in a row to take the lead. 2 more for Gen.G, 3 to end the half for Fnatic, not allowing Gen.G to really get much of anything on site. But then switching to their defenders half, Gen.G would win 4 rounds in a row. Fnatic not able to put more than 1 round together at a time. 3 more rounds for Gen.G. It's getting really dire for Fnatic. Fnatic would get one at round 21, but then Gen.G have a solid retake to win round 22. They're at map point. Fnatic get one at 23, but round 24, Gen.G just able to close this one out. Crashies leading the way for Fnatic, and Crashies look quite good this tournament, but I also want to say as a criticism for Fnatic, if Crashies is your best player, there's something wrong. Crashies is phenomenal, Crashies is great, and Kayak did do pretty well as well. Also, apparently now Kayak's sick, which that's just a rite of passage for Fnatic players, I guess. Anyways, for Gen.G, we see some really solid performances by the likes of Munchkin with 21 kills. We had Texture with 20. He's looked phenomenal this tournament. Moving on to map 2, this is where the controversy begins. 14-12 would be the final scoreline for this one, so it did go into overtime. Fnatic able to grab that momentum from Gen.G as soon as that tech pause finally ended. And yeah, Gen.G probably should have won this map if it wasn't for that, because look at this attack half. Very strong from them. Doing well to get onto site, doing well to get the kills. Fnatic not able to have successful retakes. Only 2 wins from a defuse in that half for Fnatic, but then the game would pause for a while. Then we get back going, Fnatic thinking that, hey, we can win this one now. We have a chance. We literally just need to win the pistol. Momentum's back in our favor, and we can just run with that. And that is exactly what they did. They win their pistol and the anti-eco, but then Gen.G looked like they're stopping Fnatic in their tracks by winning the next 2. But then Fnatic, with the help of Alphayear and Kayak having really good maps, would be able to win the next 2. Gen.G get to match point at round 19, but then 5 rounds in a row from Fnatic to save them. And with that momentum, they brought it into overtime. Gen.G just too rattled to focus at this point, and Fnatic would get the only 2 rounds of overtime that we saw. Alphayear playing the double duelist, he was on Raze in this one, interesting choice, but he got 28 kills, so looked like a pretty good choice. And then Kayak with 20, so he had a good map as well. Charon was leading the way for Gen.G with 21 kills on the Omen. So a very unfortunate set of circumstances for Gen.G. Fnatic doing a great job to pounce on that opportunity in map 2. However, map 3 would not share the same fate. Gen.G win this one in a pretty convincing 13-6. Probably pretty mad about how that second map went, and it looked like they might have choked this one as well, because Fnatic did win that pistol, so that one just, really not a good start. But then Gen.G able to steal the anti-eco from Fnatic, and then go on a very nice, comfortable lead, getting to 5-1. 8-4 would be the score at the half, and then Fnatic yet again win the pistol, but then Gen.G yet again stealing that anti-eco. They were angry. They wanted this map over. And it would come to a pretty quick end at round 19, 13-6 being the final score. The last top seed has fallen. Crashies leading his team in rain with a 1.13, but the top frag was Alphayear with 15. On the side of Gen.G, Texture and Foxy9 tied with 21 kills plus 11 each. 2 players that have been in great form this entire tournament. Looking at the team MVPs on the side of Gen.G, we have Texture, who went 60, 45, and 18 for plus 15. On the side of Fnatic, we have Crashies, who went 48, 41, and 18 for plus 7. In terms of pistols, both teams were tied with 3 apiece. Eco round wins, 4 for Gen.G, 3 for Fnatic. Half buys, it was 5 wins for Gen.G, 12 for Fnatic, so Fnatic doing quite well on those half buys. However, full buys would be where Gen.G would be much more favored, winning 28 and Fnatic winning 16. So Gen.G, after being rattled by that second map loss, they were able to recover. And Fnatic, as I said, the last top seed to get knocked down. They would recover later in the bracket. But first, I do want to talk about this whole top seed discussion that we have now. I was on this earlier in the tournament, and now it's a big discussion because now every single top seed got knocked down to a lower bracket. The top seeds from the region being able to pick their teams and have to wait halfway through the tournament to be able to play is absolutely a disadvantage. I'm not saying this to cope for any of the teams that I predicted. I'm 2-2 in the opening matches, so I'm fine. However, in previous videos that I've made about this tournament, I mentioned that in Shanghai, the top seeds went 1-4. And this tournament, now it's 0-4, because the teams that came in went through an absolute gauntlet from Swiss. We had PaperX have an absolutely insane match versus Team Liquid where they almost blew a 12-3 lead. Or sorry, they did blow the lead, but then ended up winning it anyway. We had Sentinels with strong performances against the Chinese teams. We had Wolves, who got knocked down to the lower part of Swiss, but then ended up coming back. And we had Gen.G, who are Gen.G, and we're still in the Swiss stage despite being a very good team. So these teams coming into Swiss against these top seeds that, yeah, should be, in theory, the strongest teams in their region, they have not been playing important matches. They've just been practicing playing scrims, which I don't care how much you practice, that is not the same as tournament reps. And Leo Faria talked about this, and he said that he still feels like the top seed advantage is in fact an advantage. And I gotta say, I respectfully disagree. This is something I was concerned about. Again, it's not cope, it's just now we have a pretty big sample size. He said that sample size was pretty small, but now we've had 2 second masters in a row. Shanghai where only one of the top seeds won, and now this tournament where none of them won. That to me is a concerning way to do your format. I think what they should do is have the top seeds in the Swiss stage, but give them a bye. Just give them a couple extra days of rest and have them not have to play the opening of the Swiss stage and then they play later, or something like that, or change to groups. I like the Swiss stage personally. I just think that there are problems with this that we definitely need to look at. This format needs to change. Mini rant over. All right, talking about top seeds that went down to lower brackets, we have those top seeds playing against each other in that lower bracket. Starting with G2 versus XLG. This one being a pretty quick 2-0 for G2, really needing that bounce back game. XLG needed one as well, but yet again with the communication issues and just not looking as crisp and having a pretty daunting matchup against the top America's team, facing both America's team in this bracket. Pretty tough ask for XLG, and they couldn't really make anything work. Starting with map 1, we have Icebox. This one ended up being a 13-3 win for G2. Really not much to say with this one. It was just dominance from G2 from front to back. They win the pistol, the anti-eco, XLG break their streak around 3, but then we have 8 rounds in a row to make it a 10-2 half at halftime. XLG, hey, you get a pistol here. Doesn't matter, 3 in a row for G2. This one's over quick. Rarga top fragging for his team, but only getting 10 kills overall. Leaf was looking like he was on a revenge tour in this one. 22 kills for him on the Killjoy, plus 17. Really good performance from him. Moving on, we have Haven. This one was a little bit closer, but still very much favored towards G2 on their map pick. 13-8 being that final scoreline. XLG, they win that pistol, so they did okay on pistols in this match. But then G2 win the next 6 rounds in a row. XLG's attack half really struggling here. They would get a couple rounds at the end of the half, so this one's 7-5 at halftime, so it's doable for XLG, but not if you lose the pistol, which they did, and G2 would win the first 4 rounds of half 2. Then XLG would win 3 rounds in a row, but G2 just needs 2 more and they would get it done. Happy Way leading the way for his team. He did have decent performances in both matches that XLG played. Rarga matching him in terms of kills, getting 20, and Leaf yet again top fragging for his team. As I said, he was looking like he was just a demon this one. He was pissed off from losing against Paper X. 20 kills for him. He was plus 8. Good performances by both Jogabo and Jonah P, the Canadian, as well. Looking at the team MVPs on the side of G2, we have Leaf, who went 42, 17, and 8 for plus 25. For XLG, we have Happy Way, who went 28, 27, and 6 for plus 1. In terms of pistols, 2 apiece for each team. Ecos, 2 wins for G2, 2 wins for XLG. Wins on half buy, 6 for G2, 2 for XLG, and full buys, 18 for G2, only 6 for XLG. So XLG, pretty unfortunate set of circumstances here. They have to play with the sub and a player that apparently doesn't speak the same language as another player, your best player in Rarga. So that definitely does not help things overall. Makes me wonder why they ended up getting MIDI, but I don't know. I'm not on their management team. G2 is no stranger to lower brackets or facing adversity in these situations, so we'll see how they can do against Gen.G later. But this was a solid win for them to get them some more of those all-important tournament reps, so maybe they get in pretty good form later on. We will see. Moving on to the second match that day, we have Fnatic versus RRQ. RRQ having a better match in this one than they did against Wolves, but Fnatic doing better than they did against Gen.G. This one was a weird one. All 3 maps were pretty lopsided for the winning team, which ends up having this one having kind of weird player stats overall, but Fnatic overall, they looked good, and RRQ, despite map 2, still having some struggles on the international level. It's some of these players' first international tournament, their first as a team, so it's not the biggest deal that they didn't do great in this tournament, but still a disappointment for a team that looked so good during stage 1, especially during stage 1 playoffs. Looking at map 1, we have Lotus. This one ended up being a 13-5 win in favor of Fnatic. RRQ starting strong by winning that pistol, but then 5 rounds in a row on their defense side from Fnatic. RRQ only able to get 1 more round on their attack side, 4 more rounds for Fnatic to end the half 9-3. Chronicle looking a lot better in this match than he did against Gen.G. And then the second half would be a little bit bit of a back and forth. Fnatic win the pistol, but lose the anti-eco. However, they would win right after that, but RQ get another, but Fnatic are only 2 away at this point. But they would get this one done at that crucial round 18. It's a sea of red for the RRQ players. The best player in terms of rating was Mondiet with a 0.83. And for Fnatic Chronicle, having a really solid game here, 18 kills for him on the Viper. He was plus 12. And some strong performances by the likes of Crashies and Kayak. But then map 2 sees a shift over to RRQ side, this one being their map pick of Haven. RRQ dominating on that attack side, looking quite pristine. They win that first 4 rounds. Fnatic break their streak, but doesn't end up lasting very long. It's 10-2 at the half. Fnatic doing their best to wait off Gen.G, but Gen.G playing quite well for his team. Seems to be a lot better on map 2s than map 1s at this tournament. Don't know if that's a common thing for him, but there it is. But RRQ getting the last 2 rounds at round 18 and round 19 to tie up this game. Gen.G leading the way for his team with 19 kills, leading the whole server. He was plus 8. And for Fnatic, Crashies continues his strong performance. 17 kills for him. He was plus 5. Moving on to map 3, we have Ascent. So again, this one is a weird match because both maps in the maps 1 and 2 were lopsided, but then this one's also lopsided. Very odd match right here. Anyways, Fnatic win those first 2 rounds. RRQ not able to get more than 1 round in a row. Fnatic just stealing any momentum that they end up getting. No one on RRQ really hitting at this point. Gen.G ended the map with only 9 kills. But Fnatic are a really good team. They end the half having a 9-3 lead. Not having the 93 curse happen to them, RRQ would win the pistol and the anti-eco, but then 4 rounds in a row from Fnatic would end this one pretty quickly. The top fragger for RRQ was Cushy with 13 kills, but it's overall just a sea of red, every player going negative when it comes to KDA. But for Fnatic, we have Alfire on the chamber with a rating of 1.52, a great performance from him with 24 kills, and he was plus 11. Looking at the team MVPs on the side of Fnatic, we have Crashy show up once again. He went 43, 27, 21 for plus 16. Weirdly low amount of kills for a top fragger for a 3-match game, but that's the kind of match this was. And on the side of RQ, we have Xfera, who went 35, 39, and 7 for minus 4. In terms of pistols, 3 apiece for both teams. Eco rounds, 3 wins for Fnatic, 4 for RQ. Wins on a half buy, 4 for Fnatic, 5 for RQ. And for full buys, we had 24 wins for Fnatic, and we had 14 for RQ. So RQ making their international tournament debut, and it just does not go the way they wanted it to. They did end up winning a map, but players like Gen.G were not in the form that was expected of him, as I've said. So that, coupled with a surprisingly bad matchup against Wolves and then going up against a very experienced team in Fnatic, just ends up being a recipe for disaster for this specific team. But we'll see if they end up making it to champions and what they can end up doing there. They can take this as a learning lesson for now, lick their wounds, and come back even stronger. So moving on to the last 2 matches now we have to talk about. We have our second board up here. We have Wolves versus Gen.G. Probably the biggest upset of the whole tournament. Gen.G, a team that some of the casters were saying were the favorite for the tournament at this point, and I didn't know if I agreed with that or not when I heard that, but it was hard to argue against because they were having just an incredible run. They have so much international experience at this point. Texture was looking like the MVP of the tournament. However, they end up being stopped by the Wolverhampton Wolves with an incredible 2-0 performance. Both maps Gen.G were leading in. Both maps Wolves made an insane comeback. This one was quite a surprising thing to watch. I was not expecting Wolves to come back, but Wolves on this incredible run beat probably their toughest opponent of the tournament yet. Starting with map 1, we have Split. This one ended up being a 13-11 win for Wolves, but as you can see from the first half, it really didn't look like it was going to go that way. If you were watching this one, there was literally no way that you thought that Wolves were going to be able to come back from 9-3, even if you believe that the 9-3 curse is true, because Gen.G were just playing incredibly well. They start the match by winning the pistol with Texture getting a 4K. He's Mr. 4K and he didn't get an ace, so the math says that they should win the game now. There's also rounds like round 4 where Charon gets a 4K. He holds down A-Site with one of those, just absolutely incredible performance from him. And Wolves would get one in round 7, but then the very next round we have another Gen.G 4K. This time Foxy9, who kills 4 of them while they're pushing. There's just so much going right for Gen.G at this point. And then we flip to Wolves' defense side. And in this match, it looked incredible. Wolves win that second pistol, they win their anti-eco, but then Gen.G get one of their own. It ends up being an 11-6 scoreline at round 17. Gen.G have so many chances to get to map point, but it just could not happen. They could not get through this impenetrable Wolves defense. Round 24 being that final round of the game, Gen.G just cannot get on site on B. Lysor and Wayu get some nice kills on that site. Munchkin is left alone. Wolves end up taking map 1. Absolutely insane comeback. Sprain leading the way for Wolves. He had 19 kills. He was +7, a very crucial player in this one. And for Gen.G, Texture would have 19 kills. He did look quite good this entire match, despite the loss. 20 kills for Karen to top frag in the entire server. Just wasn't enough. And then we have map 2, and surely Gen.G can win one to tie the game up and we go to Lotus, right? Nope. Did not end up happening, but this map went eerily similar to map 1, but there was a difference. Gen.G start strong once again. They win 4 rounds in a row. Strong pistol, strong rounds after that. They're in control. They can bring this one back. However, Wolves win one around 5, 2 more from Gen.G, but round 10 would see yet another 4K from Texture to secure that round. Very crucial round for Gen.G there. They need to stop that Wolves momentum. Wolves get another round 11, but one more round from Gen.G to end the half. It's 8-4. So Gen.G are up in this game, but it doesn't feel like they have control. It still feels like Wolves have the momentum. They're down by 4 rounds, but they have the momentum. And Valorant, if there's not anything else I know about this game, is it is a game of momentum. If you have momentum, especially in the VCT, even if you're losing by a score of 12-0, you can come back and win it. And that's exactly what Wolves ended up doing. They win that pistol, but then they lose their anti-eco. But Gen.G still in the lead, still with chances to make this one go to map 3. They just can't get it done. Just having some disaster rounds like round 16 where Gen.G are trying to retake and Texture just gets hit with a Sova dart. He ends up dying because of that, and Suifat BB, who's been on a great run this tournament, looking like the main protagonist out there, he clutches the round for his team. Really solid performance from him this map. And that helps Wolves close that gap, and they don't let Gen.G just get anything done. They won 8 rounds in a row to end this match. Round 22 would be that final round. YU with the 3K. Wolves end up getting the plan. Ash has 4 kills. He needs to ace. Soyfat Baby, yet again, clutching the round for Wolves, just bringing his team to victory once again. Speaking of Soyfat Baby, he had 17 kills and a rating of 1.29 to lead his team. Texture for Gen.G with 25 kills. Again, he was playing great. It just wasn't enough. Looking at the team MVPs on the side of Wolves, we have Sprain, even though it could be a couple different players. 37 kills, 28 deaths, 19 assists for +9. And for Gen.G, Texture went 44, 33, and 9. He was +11. In terms of pistols, 2 for Wolves, 2 for Gen.G. Eco round wins, 3 for Wolves, 3 for Gen.G. Half buy wins, 5 for Wolves, 4 for Gen.G, and then those full buys being the difference. 18 rounds for Wolves, 13 for Gen.G. So Wolves, I don't know, man. They are just on an incredible run right now. They are genuinely reminding me of Edward Gaming's run at Champions last year. This team really coming out of nowhere this tournament and just looking like they're in incredible form. There are so many players on that team that could be considered the MVP. They look incredibly deep. They have some great players in Sprain, Juicy, Lysor, YU, and of course, as I've talked about, Soyfat Baby. He's looked great from an individual perspective and as a leader. This team might just mess around and win this whole tournament, but we'll see how they do against their upper bracket opponent in the upper final. Which brings us to the last match that we have to talk about, PaperX versus Sentinels. So this one being a rematch that we haven't seen since Madrid. Sentinels meeting PaperX in the lower final of that tournament, and they were able to win that one. They would then go on to win that tournament, but PaperX are looking to win one of their own. And the train did not end up stopping at the Sentinel station. Sentinels unable to win against the Pacific team, while they were able to beat the Chinese teams. The Pacific teams, different story here. Sentinels having a pretty rough first map to start this one, and they would recover on map 2, and they looked like they were going to win it at one point, but PaperX, with their players in really good form right now, were able to keep the train going, not allowing that train to stop. It just choo-choos along. Looking at map 1, we have Split. This one ended up being a domination from PaperX. PaperX would win the first 6 rounds of this match, so it looked like it was going to be pretty rough for Sentinels early on. Sentinels losing some 1v1s like at round 3, where there was one between Bane and Forsaken, or some rough plays like round 6, where Sentinels try to cut off PaperX at B main. There's a big gunfight, but everyone ends up dying, including the PaperX players actually. They just died after the Sentinels players. Sentinels would get 2 rounds in the half at round 7 and round 9, but the train just kept chugging along. At the last round of the half, Sentinels just cannot ward off the aggression from PaperX. W Gaming in full force, 10-2 half in favor of PRX. Then PaperX would continue their streak. They win the first 2 rounds of the second half. PaperX have so many chances to win this one, and they would do it this one over at round 16. Bang leading the way for his team with 13 kills, but no one going positive on Sentinels. But Patman leading the way in terms of rating with a 1.49. He had 14 kills. He was +7. Moving on to map 2, we have Sunset, this one being a bit closer, but Sentinels still end up losing it. Yet another map that both teams are solid on, but Paper X just seem to have figured out right now. But Sentinels have a much better start in this one than they did in the previous map. They would go on a streak to start this one for nothing. A good pistol, a good anti-eco, some good retakes here. Paper X make it close by winning 3 rounds in a row, and then the teams go back and forth to end the half. So it ends up being 7-5 in favor of Sentinels in this one, so this is definitely doable. However, Paper X, the train just stopped for a moment because they win the pistol as well as the anti-eco in the second half, and that ends up tying the game. But Sentinels would win some rounds here, like round 15, where they won a 3v2 on B, having a very solid post plant, something had to save after that. Round 16 was another good round for Sentinels, where they do have 2 deaths early, but Zelsis was able to clutch it with a 4K. Very strong sight hold from him on A. That was a very crucial round for Sentinels, but again, it just was not enough because the train came back, they won 3 rounds in a row. That would tie up the game again. Sentinels win round 21, but then 3 more for Paper X. This one's over. In that round 24, it ends up having a plant on B. Zekken is in a 1v2 situation. He gets one of the kills. Forsaken is the last player there, and Forsaken ends up going for the defuse, and he just barely sticks it before Zekken can get to him. Paper X take this one by the skin of their teeth, basically. Zekken leading the way for his team with 21 kills, something leading the way in terms of rating for Paper X, but Gene with 23 kills to be top franking the entire server. Looking at the team MVPs, on the side of Paper X, we have Gene, who went 39, 27, and 4 for plus 12. His performance has been great this tournament. On the side of Sentinels, we have Zekken, who went 32, 31, and 9 for plus 1. In terms of pistols, 3 for Paper X, 1 for Sentinels. Eco round wins, 3 for Paper X again, 1 for Sentinels again. In terms of half buy, 7 wins for Paper X on a half buy, 6 for Sentinels, and full buys, 16 for Paper X, only 6 for Sentinels there. Pretty rough stat from them there. So Paper X, the train continues. Listen, I've believed in this team before, and I've seen them fail before. This is a very impressive run. I'm proud of them. They are going a lot further than I personally thought they were going to. However, we've seen this story before. I know there are some Paper X fans that are very excited, and the whole train meme is going, and people are having a good time. However, I've cheered for this team before. I've thought they were going to win turns before. They've let me down and disappointed me every time. So maybe it changes here, but I really don't know, man. This team, you really never know what you're going to get from them on a daily basis, but they've looked good these playoffs. That's all they need to do. And for Sentinels, rough performance on that map 1, looking really not in sync. Map 2 was definitely better for them. They still have a chance to go decently far in the lower bracket. We'll see how they end up doing against Fnatic. That's definitely going to be a very interesting matchup to see, especially in the current year 2025. So those are all the matches that I have to talk about today. Sorry that some of the matches were more detailed than others. As I said, I couldn't always take detailed notes, but for the ones I did relay them back to you. It's been a very busy weekend. I'll do one more match recap for the playoff stage tomorrow after the last 2 are done. Then I'll try to do a couple more videos before I end up going to Toronto, because I will be there for the top 4. I will be there to watch Paper X versus Wolves live, as well as whatever the lower final ends up being. I will be there at Earner Center to watch Paper X versus Wolves live, as well as whatever match ends up being the second one of that day. So I'm very excited for that. So if you're attending the tournament, please come up and say hi if you see me. I'll also be giving out these. Just got these. I got some stickers. I'm going to be handing these out to anyone that wants them, basically. But yeah, that's all I have to talk about today. I'll talk more about when I'm going to Toronto and all that stuff in the next video, but thank you all very much for watching. If you're going to be at Toronto, I'll see you there. Let me know what you guys think of the matches that have happened and the matches that are going to happen. All that stuff. Please click like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.